Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is George Zarepsky, and we are here today to give an overview of the Aerēz product. And let me welcome to the live cast Candace and Mark. Candace and Mark are two of our founders. So Candace is a programmer and CEO of MCP Networks, and Mark is a network engineer and CTO of MCP Networks. MCP Network's first product is Aerēz, which is what we're here to talk about today. All right, so first I'm going to give an overview of the product, and then Candace and Mark is going to focus a bit on the user and device tab. We will follow up with a question and answer segment. So please add all of your questions to the chat window to the right or to the right and below this video, depending on how you're viewing. And if you're on mobile, you'll be able to add your questions to the bottom of your mobile window. We may not be able to answer all the questions in this session, but we'll definitely get back to you and reply on all the questions that are in the chat. Of course, you can also use our chat bubble that's at the bottom of our website screen on the right side. That's aerez.net, A-E-R-E-Z.net. Okay, so without further ado, let's switch over to the product. All right. Here we have our home screen. This is our dashboard. I've already done the login. We've gone past that bit to speed things up a little bit. And from the home screen, you'll see an overview of how many users you have, how many devices, and we'll have the superpower pause button right here as well. As we look a little bit further down, we'll have activity log, and this will show, well, it's not the log, but it's an activity window. So this shows any current warnings or any notifications that Aerēz is trying to send to you. And you can dismiss those accordingly from this window as well. Then we move on to the Users tab, Devices tab, and we have also a Settings tab, which allows some configuration and account management. We'll go into that a little more detail later. For now, I want to hand over the microphone to Candace, who is going to talk a little bit about the user platform.
All right, well, let's jump into the Users tab. And to get started, we're going to add a user. So you look for the little plus icon upper right, click that to open up the Add User screen. And in this view, you can assign and set a content filter and the user type setting. If you turn on the content filter for your user, Aerēz will automatically filter out inappropriate and malicious websites, keeping the web a safe place for kids. The user type setting tells Aerēz what connection priority your user will have. Adults are priority number 1, followed by media, child, and guest. And this setting allows Aerēz to allocate bandwidth and optimize your network. And then you simply click the Add button and it'll take you back to your user's screen. So now let's jump into the Edit User screen. So we'll take a look at Alexander here. And again, if you're going in and you want to pause all of the user's devices, the Pause Internet button is right at the top. Underneath that, there are drop-downs for the content filter and user type. So if you want to toggle that on or off, this is the place to do that. And then in this screen, you can set the bedtime blocker. And the bedtime blocker is set up for weeknights and weekends. Weeknights are Sunday through Thursday. And then the weekends are Friday and Saturday. And the bedtime blocker time goes into effect in the evenings and ends the following morning. And once you have the start and end time set, you just hit the save button and that puts the bedtime blocker into effect. And if we scroll up to the top of the screen, we have a button to edit our user information. And we'll jump into that. Again, this is the spot where you'll be able to upload an image, a profile image, change the name, and then we have the email and mobile information, which will be used in the future to send alerts to your user. And we'll jump back to the user edit screen and take a look at devices. So this is a quick view that you can see which devices have already been assigned to your user. And basically it gives you a device status and when was the last time they had connected. So that's a basic rundown on the users tab at this point.
All right, thank you, Candace. And now we'll move over to the device tab and go in a little bit of detail there. We'll hand the mic over to Mark.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name is Mark, and I'll be going over the devices section of the user interface. This area is mostly just for information, but there's one key piece here, and that's that this is where you will assign devices to their owners or their user. We've seen the pause button before, and it's here again just to make it easily accessible. So in this overview screen, we can see all the devices that have communicated on the network. We're working this week on sorting them in order of which device most recently talked. But for now, the devices are just all listed here, and you might have to scroll to see the complete listing. We found that most families using Aerēz have over 20 devices. Another thing we've gotten feedback on and are adding to this page is the user image, so that any device that's assigned to a user, you'll see the picture of that there. And we're going to swap out the IP address that you see for a more useful status that will identify whether the device is active or inactive, paused, has a good signal, bad signal, stuff like that. We want to give you a better idea of what the device's health is. Finally, the icon at the left, we're working on to give you a clue as to what that device might be. So in the future, that would look like a phone or a TV or maybe a laptop. So let's click on any device. And here you'll see the details of that device. So right away, we want to make pausing the internet super easy. So if you click the pause button in this context, it'll be just this device that gets blocked from talking to the interwebs while the rest of your network keeps keeping on as normal. The next up is the nickname. We feel this is really important for a lot of users. MAC addresses and IP addresses are what routers need to do their jobs, but you want something that's meaningful to a human. Here's where you'll put the name in that means something to you, and you'll see that name carried over to other screens of the user interface. The next button is the master device, and you'll see it's an on-off button. If anyone can think of a better or more user-friendly name, we'd love to hear about it. But turning this feature on means that when you hit the global pause button for the whole home, the master device will not be affected and it won't get paused. So this way you won't lock yourself out of being able to turn the internet back on. This screen is also where you'll assign a device to a user. So you have to make the user first and then they show up in the drop-down menu. You just pick which user owns this device, and under the hood, Aerēz will balance the bandwidth and set priority automatically to ensure that this device has the best experience. Finally, there's a little bit of technical information that can't be modified that's just there in case you need to call in or go online for support for this device. That's it for the devices section of the user interface, so I'll give it back to George.
Thank you, Mark. Excellent overview of the device section. So for all of our viewers, we want you to understand that this is pretty much the core of your interaction with Aerēz. Our intent is to make this as easy as possible with minimal amount of user interaction. Again, you can add your users, and you'll want to do that so that everyone has the right priority. The devices are automatically listed based on the devices that are connected to your network. And as you saw, there's a little bit of configuration you can do in there, but overall, the goal is for Aerēz to manage all of your devices automatically and send you notifications in this activity area when necessary. I want to go into the Settings tab just for a moment to give you a quick overview of some areas that you might need to interact with. Most importantly, I want to point out the support area. We're in beta, as you know, and we look forward to any and all feedback that you can give. So we've provided 3 locations within the app for you to do so. The first one being the email icon. If you click that, it will open up the email client of your phone or desktop, and you can send us an email. You can call us on the 800 or toll-free number listed here, and you can also click in the chat window here to open up a chat and speak with any of our representatives that are online. If we're not responding to you right away, don't worry. We will reply to you, and you'll be notified by email as well once we reply to the chat. So you don't have to hang out in the chat window waiting for us to reply. All right, that is a quick overview. Mark, Candace, do you guys think I might have left anything out, or is there anything else you'd like to touch on?
It might perhaps be worthwhile to run through the settings of network management where you can change your Wi-Fi SSID or password.
All right. So let's do that. Let's go over to network management.
Yeah, so if you need to modify any of your Wi-Fi settings, there's two sections here. There's primary Wi-Fi and then there's guest Wi-Fi. So at the top, you can turn your primary Wi-Fi on or off, and then you can set the SSID, which is just the name that shows up when you're on a device that needs to join the Wi-Fi network. This is the name that will show for you to join. And then you can choose whether you want password protection on or off. We highly recommend it's on for your primary Wi-Fi. There you can enter the password. We'll put a checkbox in there so you can display the password and make it easy to share with your other family members. And then the next section is guest Wi-Fi. And same thing, it comes pre-configured with off, but you can simply turn it on here and then pick a name for it. We preload it with guest Wi-Fi as the name. And then if you would like password protection on there, you can turn it on. It comes pre-configured with guest Wi-Fi having no password, because we expect that you're going to turn guest Wi-Fi on for a day and then turn it off tomorrow.
All right, great. Thanks, Mark. Candace, is there anything you'd like to point out?
The only thing I'll add is we are currently building our FAQ section on Aerēz.net. So if you have a question and we don't immediately respond in the chat section, you can refer to the Aerēz.net FAQs. Things like finding your IP address and some other fun, important little details in there, and you can head on over there and answer any additional questions you might have.
Awesome. Thank you, Candace. Right, so now we will turn it over to the internet and field any questions that any viewers may have. And I also have a few cached questions asked by some folks offline. So I'll go ahead and present those since we don't appear to have any new questions in the chat window. So Corey wanted to know, how would we handle somebody using their device with applications that are stored locally once we turn off the internet? So basically, if we pause the internet, how does that work with somebody that still has, games or whatever on their device that they don't need internet access for?
Sure, I guess I can field this one. So Aerēz positioning is between your devices and the internet. So it is only capable of blocking content that is, sourced from or destined for the internet. So any content that's locally stored on the machine, if that's in the case of gaming, a single-player game, or if it's content that's a movie that's already downloaded, we can't affect that. But the pause button works definitely for any conversation that goes out towards the internet.
All right, great. I'll add a little bit to that. So I've got younger kids, and I've noticed that they're really big on the YouTube for Kids and all the streaming. And I also feel like as we move forward here, most things are going web-based, cloud-based. Even Android has announced that a lot of their apps are going to be cloud-based. So even though there'll be a portion of the app stored on your device, it's still going to need to interact with the cloud to work. But for my kids in particular, when the streaming stops, it forces them to go to their local apps, which I've installed, and they don't know how to install their own yet. And so I find that they end up using the educational apps at that time. So that's like a plus for me. So if I just want them to switch over to being smart, I just pause the internet and then they go to those apps. But yeah, maybe that's something we could look into in version 3, How about that, Candace and Mark? You know, we can look into doing something like that on the device level. But again,
Yeah.
you know, our goal is to keep it simple right now and make it as easy as possible. Sure, there are limitations with that, but you know, that's something we could definitely look forward to. Candace?
Yeah, I think we've discussed looking into building a companion app that would work with the core Aerēz product to control the devices at at the iOS or Android level, and so we'd be able to turn off the games. But yeah, definitely another version.
Awesome, awesome. All right, we do have a question from the Facebook or YouTube channel. It's from Aisha J, and she asks, "Can someone in the UK test the product?"
That's a good question. We are not international company at this time, so doing business outside of the U.S., we'd have to look into that. And given that we're in beta right now, it's probably something we could do since we're not collecting revenue and operating in multiple companies. However, we don't have plans to go international at this point.
Okay, and I'll add to that with another question that I had on the list here. Does the device, in fact, work outside of the U.S.? Is it restricted by any company or I'm sorry, country or location?
Yeah, so technically the device would work no matter where you are. We might have some trouble tuning the network, so to speak, because we do some, bandwidth tests and other measurements on the system that, is talking locally to cloud servers that exist in the United States. And if that was coming across the ocean, I could easily see that getting some inaccurate results that might result in suboptimal tuning. But those are things we'd work on as we positioned ourselves internationally.
Great, thanks, Mark. All right, so I don't see any other questions, and we're coming up to our timestamp. Again, feel free to ask any questions you have on the website. We have the chat bubble in the bottom right, and we will definitely get back to you as soon as possible. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and viewing the session. Thank you, Mark and Candace, for taking the time to speak with us about this. And
Thanks, George.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Take care.